one of them. These people are mass murderers without remorse because their God is Lucifer. I agree with that. Their God is Lucifer. Pike spelled that out in Morals and Dogma. Yeah. I know it's hard to fathom their evil, but these people have been murdering for years. Look up on YouTube, Bill Cooper. He talks about Oklahoma City. Before Oklahoma City bombing, McVeigh and John Doe number 2 paid a visit to Bill Cooper in Eager, Arizona. There's also on YouTube a video proving that Larry Silverstein, who owned Building 7, admits he pulled it, also known as brought it down with explosives. 90% of the drugs ran into America are protected by the CIA. I saw it firsthand in Mena, Arkansas. I remember when Bill Clinton was in office, they did a thing about Mena, Arkansas, because he was the governor of Arkansas, which to this day is the hub where drug enter into America. I've also witnessed the protection of poppy, that's the flower, the poppy flower, poppy plant, and which produces what? Opium, one of the most powerful things on earth, comes from a plant. And from it you get morphine and a lot of other things. But anyway, and coca fields, what comes from that? Cocaine. That's right, nose job, cocaine. In Afghanistan and South and Central America. Thank you, Pastor Lawson, for your service, and may Jesus continue to use you to spread the truth to those people that need it. Semper Fi. Semper Fi simply means always faithful. That's Latin. That's the way the Marines talk to each other when they say that. Well, they know what we're talking about. All right. Now notice the giants. Notice the giants. I've heard about giants. Now what are these giants? Well, there's a lot of possibilities to what they are. They may have nothing to do with the giants that were in the earth in Genesis 6. The giants in the earth in Genesis 6 are a product of the fallen angels who fell, came down the daughters of men, cohabited with them, and produced a race of giants they call the Rephaim. In the case of Genesis, the Nephilim. But you have a lot of genetic engineering going on today. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background that just you don't hear much about. I told you before, I think it was Wednesday night or last week, about how that they are developing weapons that are designed to attack a genetic field of people, a certain genetic group. In plain words, if you can develop a weapon that'll wipe all the Jews from the face of the earth, then what have you got? You got a pogrom, but you sure have a powerful weapon, don't you? And they're certainly working on this now. If you'll get on Stephen Quayle's website, Stephen Quayle, and look on that website, you'll find he has a list of dead scientists. And these scientists, folks, I'm talking about all over the world, are the men who deal with the development of genetic material, nuclear material, everything. Scientists. And they're dying strange deaths and unexplainable deaths. And these men are dying all over the world, and women are dying all over the world. It's an anomaly. It doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense. There's too many of them. And so why are they dying? They're dying because they've been used in the experimentation or the preparation or the process of certain things, and they know too much and they want to get rid of them. That's why they're dying. Now, here, let's put two and two together. I think the American people, if they did a survey, as a matter of fact, I watched a thing on PBS. You know what PBS is? Public Broadcasting. It's from Colorado. That's isn't it taxpayer supported? PBS, now listen carefully. PBS, not known to be a conservative outfit. But I watched a commentary yesterday of about 15 minutes. I didn't have time to go any further, about 911. They had over 1,500 scientists, engineers, architects giving reasons why the official story of 911 is a joke. And anybody that wants to take any time to check into it, you're going to find out, folks, that there is an enormous amount of material out there that just doesn't match up, and a bunch of people out there who do not agree with the official position. That's not even to count the military people, generals, colonels, and the rest of them, who absolutely disagree with the official position. Now, you need to understand this. They don't agree among themselves either about some of the things that happen, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, they're trying to get to the bottom of it, trying to get to the truth. That's all right. I mean, a debate is a good thing, folks. There's nothing wrong with debate. But here's the point. If 911 is an inside job, and somebody pulled the string and killed over 3,000 American citizens, if that is true, they wouldn't hesitate to kill you, lock you up, work with genetic engineering, produce some kind of a thing like this giant or what have you in the background, and when the time comes, they'll do what they intend to do. They are wicked, evil men. Yeah. Right. I marvel at some of the stuff I see on there. I heard engineer after engineer after engineer. Here's one engineer, he says, now look at this beam. That is steel that is 5 inches thick. Have you ever seen 5-inch thick steel? 5 inches thick. I'm not talking about wide, thick. These beams, this building, it said the World Trade Towers, and I found this out yesterday, had a core structure inside. It's not, it had steel on the outside to support the facade, but it had this huge core structure on the inside with these huge beams that supported the weight of this building, 110 stories. And this huge, I'm talking about massive beams that this building was built around, was built to withstand the impact of a 707. That's what they said in the documentary. They said that was the biggest passenger jet of the time, of the age. A Boeing 707, a direct hit. This building, both buildings, were designed to absorb that. You know that I think it was in World War II that a bomber flew into the Empire State Building, somewhere back in there. I don't remember exactly the timing, but a bomber, a propeller-driven bomber, nowhere near as big as the 707, but flew into the Empire State Building. The buildings were also designed to withstand winds of over 100 miles an hour, because New York is vulnerable to a hurricane because of its proximity to the sea. So here we have these massive buildings, huge buildings that are this huge support structure that's on the inside. And the only thing, they said, that's within that support structure would be elevators and stuff like that. In other words, nothing to compromise its strength. These things are built to hold this building. And yet we are told to believe that starting from the top down, this building just collapses into itself and pancakes itself all the way down and free falls within something like 12 seconds from top to bottom. And this massive cloud of dust comes out as the building collapses. And the engineers are saying, where does the dust come from? It's not coming from the steel. The only other place the dust could be coming from would be the computers, the carpeting, stuff like that, and said, that kind of stuff does not produce dust. But they showed you what does produce dust like that. A volcano eruption. And a volcanic eruption is a totally, entirely different animal than what's the official party line from this building coming down, because a volcanic eruption has to do with an explosion. The air filled with an explosive charge that's coming up out of the ground, this enormous release of energy into the atmosphere. And then there's a thing too also underneath the water where there's forget what they call that. The only two things that's like it. And then so they say, now look at this, and of course these engineers sometimes don't agree on every point, but they are in agreement on this. Every last engineer, architect is in agreement on this. There is no way that building could free fall. Not with that kind of steel in it. Unless it had charges placed and expertly done, and it obviously took a long time to set those two buildings up to explode as they came down. And of course, if that's the case, then folks, I mean, you're living in And I tend to believe it. I don't know if I understand all of it, but I tend to believe, I tend to not believe the official party line. My instinct tells me there's something stinking about this. My instinct tells me that. There's something stinking about it. And of course, there's the testimony of the firemen, brave men. I have great respect for those New York firemen, believe me. I mean, they ran right into the jaws of death. They did, man. I'm telling you right now, you think about what those men did. Those firemen up there in New York, and the policemen too, in New York. They did. And they were. You can hear them on the radios talking to each other and saying, there's another explosion. There's another explosion. They're talking about explosions taking place. Yeah. Now, what are these explosions coming from? What's that got to do? This is before the buildings are collapsing. What are these explosions? See? And of course they say, well, the explosions are happening way down underneath. Underneath the building, yes. And so now they have some high-tech explosives that do things like this. All right, high-tech. Stuff we've probably never heard of. And they say, why was not an independent analysis made of this site? Why would they not let the scientists come in and look at the site and determine what brought these buildings down? Check for explosives, check for the residue, check for it. And they didn't do that. It was hush-hush, closed up, and shipped off as soon as they could. And nobody was allowed access to it. I mean, I could be standing here looking at exactly what blew it up, and I wouldn't know what I was looking at. We're talking about somebody who knows what they're doing. They wouldn't let people like that in there, you see. They wouldn't let them in there. All right, so all of that means this, that very well, and there's a lot of other things involved, the aircraft and so forth. I watched this part. This, too, was amazing. It was amazing. And I'll have to go look at it again, but this is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. I've told you about the British reporter, BBC. Here she stands. Here's Building 7 behind her, across her shoulder. And she's reading about Building 7 falling. And Building 7 still standing. All right. Yesterday, I watched the aircraft. The first building's hit. The first building's on fire. I don't remember which one it is, south, whichever one, but it's on fire. Here comes this commercial jetliner, and you can see it approaching, and you can see its trajectory, and you can see it hit the building, and you can see the explosion. Okay? Now, they've got two entirely separate videos of what happened when that craft hit that building. They've got the live feed that took place that morning. Then they've got the version that was put on the evening news. Are you listening? They're not the same. You can watch the one where the live feed that was taken that morning as the cameras rolled and showed that aircraft as it hit that building. You don't see an aircraft. There's no airplane, but you see the explosion. Then on the evening news, when they show the same scene from the same angle, you see the aircraft come in and you see it explode. Now, with the technology we've got today, it's no big deal to put something on the video. That's no big deal. What are you saying? I'm saying that there's a certain element out there among the scientists and the engineers and so forth who reject the official theory about what exactly collided with those buildings. It's like the Pentagon. I'll read that in just a moment. The Pentagon. Here is a man who says he was on guard duty in the Pentagon. He was on guard duty. He was there when it happened. And he said, no plane hit that Pentagon. That's what he said. I'll read it for you. Howdy, Pastor Lawson. My name is blank, Marine Corps Force Recon, 9/23/2012. Here's a link about Building 7 from the owner, Larry Silverstein himself. Larry Silverstein admits to having demolished World Trade Center Building 7, YouTube, and here's the link. Thank you for what you are doing for Jesus' kingdom. God bless. If that link doesn't work, Google Larry Silverstein admits to Building 7. Also, I have a buddy. Now watch this. I have a buddy that was on guard duty at the Pentagon. That puts him right at the scene. And he said no plane hit that area. Now watch this. And they were under threat by the FBI and the Marine Corps to keep their mouths shut.